Yeah, there you go.
Not that I was gonna help him anyway.
Yeah. When you're all set, I'll have him start the meeting.
All the kids.
Yeah, we can go for it.
All right, all set.
He's all set?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:08. Roll call, please, Sandy?
Yes, Mary Taggart, Joe Liggett, Sandy Slavin, Ken Baptiste, Jim Smith, and new Rob Lesson, who has been appointed and sworn in as a now official voter, and Agent Dave Pichette. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to remind everybody you are being recorded for television. And I think to start off, we'll start off with the continued hearing for notice of intent for Richard Infusey, Pinehurst Beach Association. Identify yourselves for the record, please.
Richard Fusey, PBIA Association trustee.
Kevin Murphy, Pinehurst Beach Improvement Association trustee.
Okay, thank you. David, when you're ready, you only need one.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've stubbed our toes more than a few times. And the last time that we were here, we had everything in front of you except our DEP file number. And at
Okay.
that point, we believed there to be no other issues or concerns other than that DEP number that you now have. So we're hoping that there are still no other issues or concerns.
Okay, David will let us know. Thank you. David?
Okay, the project site is at 114 Pinehurst Drive, and the project involves repairs to an existing seawall along a coastal bank, coastal beach and salt marsh, and this is also within a coastal flood zone. An existing concrete seawall, approximately 91 feet in length, is leaning and cracked and needs to be repaired. The work would involve trenching to install a second concrete wall behind the existing wall on the landward side to anchor the existing wall too, so that it cannot fall forward onto the beach. So again, as we've heard, we had continued this hearing because we did not have a DEP file number for the project. We have since received that, and so at this stage, I would recommend that we issue the order of conditions for the project with the standard conditions, and the added condition that no equipment be on the beach for the project.
Understood.
Okay, anything else you'd like to say?
Nope, thanks
That's it.
for all your help. Sorry we were in front of you as many times as we were, but
No, that happens.
we learned a lot and we didn't spend $5,000.
Right, that helps.
Thank you.
Any questions,
I'm good, thank you.
Rob? Jim?
All
Sandy?
set?
No
Joe?
questions.
Mary?
No questions.
From the audience? Okay,
I'm seeing no one. I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Make a motion, we issue standard order of conditions with the one stipulation that there will be no equipment placed on the beach.
Second.
Sandy's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much.
What happens now?
But get a hold of David.
Yeah, you will get an order of conditions which outlines the conditions for the project, and then that's your permit, basically, so then you can proceed.
So that gets emailed, physically mailed, we get notified and we pick it up? How does that actually work?
It gets physically mailed, or you can pick it up by hand delivery if you'd prefer that. So you just call me tomorrow and let me know, and we'll go from there.
Any chance I could pick it up tomorrow?
Well, it may not be quite ready tomorrow, but I'm saying you can let me know what you
I'm down
want.
for the night and leave
Yeah.
in the morning to go back to work.
Yeah, it won't be ready tomorrow,
Okay.
no.
When do you think it'll be ready?
It'll be ready probably Monday or Tuesday of next week.
All right, we'll call you.
Yeah.
I'll call
All right,
him. Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Another continued hearing. Notice of intent, BWC Gibbs Brook. Bless you.
Who's got the signature page for that?
Blue Waves Solar. We're gonna handle all of them like we did last time,
No. we
No?
have to go individually.
individually?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Yeah.
Gibbs up first.
Hmm?
Gibbs up first.
Yes.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Rich Cirque, and to my right is Lexi Barlow. And standing up there and setting up the easels is Rich Riccio from Field Engineering, and sitting down to my right is John Mancini. And
Okay.
we're here to present in a consolidated way, I think would be the most efficient, all 4 petitions for solar fields in the same area off Charge Pond Road. It's a continued hearing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you handled them all as a consolidated hearing the last time, and if so, we'd like to proceed on the same basis tonight.
They voted to continue all 4 hearings
Yes.
in a motion, but since they were advertised as separate hearings, we have to close each one and issue an order for each one, just so.
Understood, understood.
Yeah.
I just was thinking in terms of tonight's presentation.
Yeah, the presentation is fine to do all at once, but we have to close each one individually and then issue an order for each one individually.
Fully understood. The same thing at the zoning board.
Can you do the presentation for all 4?
Rich, do you want to start?
Is there anything new that hasn't been presented in the previous meeting, other than Mary's wasn't here?
Well, that's what we're gonna hear, I think, right now.
We're gonna start with Gibbs.
I can briefly go over, there was some just minor changes following the first zoning board of appeals meeting.
Send this down to her if she wants to look
Basically,
at
what
it.
we've done is
Mary?
consolidated the arrays slightly to abide by the new solar bylaw setbacks, 50 feet off fence lines, and the plans on the boards tonight reflect those changes. That reduced the fenced area by about 2 to 3 acres overall. We didn't change any of the limits of work or the limits of clearing. The areas outside the fence would still be, trees would be cut, but the shrubs and understory would remain. Another thing we did within the fence themselves, we reduced the row spacing from 12 feet to 10 feet to maximize the footprints within the fences as well. We have 2 letters from the town engineer, Mr. Rowley. He opined on the stormwater, that he had no issues with any of the stormwater calculations or design. And I believe he had communicated that to Mr. Bichette as well. And that's really the gist of what's changed on the site plans from our previous meeting.
Let me supplement that if I can. There are some issues of a zoning nature that are still the subject of discussions with Mr. Rowley. And we have opened the zoning board hearing, and it's been continued to December 13. Those issues, though, have nothing to do with conservation jurisdiction issues. And I'll tell you what they are. One of the issues that Mr. Rowley had was whether there was an adequate view buffer from Route 25, and in particular from the northbound traffic on Route 25. And we're in the there's a meeting, I believe, that's been scheduled between Mr. Riccio and Mr. Rowley for Monday to address those issues about making sure that there's an adequate visual buffer from the northbound traffic on Route 25 to the southernmost array, which is the one closest to Route 25, one of the 2 that's owned by David Fletcher. But that's a zoning issue, and we intend to address it, and we'll have to in order to get the special permit and the site plan approval we've applied for from the zoning board. The second issue has to do with the adequacy of the the 20-foot easement that we have over the town-owned property from Charge Pond Road, on which the maintenance barn is located. And that's another issue that we have to satisfy him on, as well as the Wareham Fire Department, to make sure that the access we build, when we have a 20-foot easement, is constructed sufficiently within that easement to satisfy the fire department. But again, that's a zoning issue. And the third issue, which also is a zoning issue, has to do with the amount, our calculations of the surety amount that needs to be submitted to the town to make sure that at the end of the lease term, these panels will be removed and the property will be restored. That's one of the conditions of the bylaw, and we fully intend to honor it. It's just a question of the amount and the calculations of the component parts so that we can agree on an amount. But from our perspective, we believe that the issues before the Conservation Commission have been resolved, unless there is something that we don't know about or you have questions that require further proceedings. But I just wanted to lay that out to you on the table. We're by no means done, but we feel that we've addressed adequately the Conservation Commission issues.
Okay, David?
I just had a couple of questions. The first one is, in terms of these changes potentially that the zoning board might ask for, is there anything that might then require a revised plan relative to conservation, or is that not the case?
No, I mean, the changes we're talking about, and I can briefly show the areas where, with regards to the things that Mr. Cirque just discussed, are potential for additional plantings along this side here, which is well away from any of the conservation buffer areas, and the access road coming in across the town's parcel up here, once again, is, you know, adequately separated from any of the conservation areas. The access roads on the site itself are gonna be maintained as they are. Those areas are all already developed as part of the Cranberry Bog operation, so that wouldn't change.
Okay, and then the second question is, we probably don't have the most recent revision to the plan set. So in order for us to issue an order of conditions, we need to have the most recent plan set, or the plan set that's gonna be the plan set of reference. So, you know, where do you see that happening, since you still have to deal with the zoning board? So you may still have potentially further revisions.
I mean, I'd be ready tonight to give you updated site layout plans that could be referred to in the orders and conditions
Okay,
that are on the board with a you know, a date, and follow up with the full plan set with that date that would serve as the record plans for the order of conditions. Knowing that, you know, some of the other changes at the zoning board, they may not even get into those plan sets. They may be separate plans for the zoning board issues.
right. Yeah, as long as we can get 2 sets of the full plans for each site that we can have for our records, and that are the most recent revisions that you want referenced, then we'll be good with that.
Absolutely, and we
Yeah.
we can, at the time that we're done with the zoning board, if you want a separate set of plans for for the completeness of your files as to what extent they've evolved since then, I'm glad to do that.
Okay. So at this point then, I would say, in terms of the Gibbs Brook hearing, which we're on currently, recommend the approval of the project with the standard conditions based on the most recent plan revision. We do have a DEP file number for the project, and we do have comments from the town engineer recommending the project in terms of the drainage and conservation issues.
Can you point to which one is Gibbs on the colored one?
Yes, Gibbs Brook is.
I get so confused between,
It's the one near the highway.
yeah,
Gibbs Brook is
25A and B, so that's 25B. Okay, that one. Okay, so I'll put a note, nearest to 25.
Okay. Rob?
No.
Jim? Sandy, you
All
got any
set.
more? Joe? Mary?
No question.
Okay, anybody in the audience for this Gibbs Brook?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. Come up, you gotta get near a speaker somehow.
Don Jepson, 15 Long Beach Road. I appeared at the zoning board hearing, and one of the questions that I asked did not go answered, and that was, how many trees are going to be cut? And I'm not sure if that applies to, of the 4 projects that are listed here, and that, I never didn't get an answer from that from Mr. Rowland. He kind of passed it over to you. And so the question I'm asking is, how many trees are going to be cut in order for this project to take place? And if you could identify which one is where the trees are going to be cut, then we could address that.
Yeah, so it can be answered in terms of acres. There's not gonna be like a specific number of trees. Nobody's gone out there and physically counted the trees, but in terms of acreage, they do have information on that. And I believe on this project, it's 19 acres or thereabouts.
Yes, on Gibbs Brook. Yes, that's correct.
And how many acres is being cut?
It's about 19 acres on Gibbs Brook.
On Gibbs Brook, and I'm trying to address the total picture. There was 134 acres, you just subtracted.
Oh, sir, we're doing one parcel at a time.
But you're asking,
Oh,
you're
I-
asking,
on
you're
each
asking
one of
for the,
these?
you're asking for the overall project, what's the total number of acres that will be cut?
Right.
Yeah, so I believe the answer to that was 38 acres originally, and you said you might have reduced that recently by 2 acres.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, there's approximately, now there's 35 acres that is fenced. And there's about 39 acres of trees that would be cut total.
Right.
A good, of that, portions of those, some of the shrub and understory growth is gonna remain. We're just cutting, leaving the stumps, leaving the ground in place. I understand that's a significant number of trees, but there is habitat enhancements that are going along with that, which we've discussed with the commission with regards to the different types of habitat that is gonna be created as part of this project, which provides additional benefits to the environment in that area. Within the fence, we specify a clover seed mix, which is to promote pollinating species and the bees and butterflies, which especially the bees have been lacking in this area and over the years. Outside the fence, and any areas that are disturbed outside the fence is specified to be treated with the wildflower seed mix. Once again, promotes habitat enhancement with the different types of seed. As we discussed at the last hearing, we are proposing a number of shrub plantings as well for habitat enhancement, and then along the perimeter of the tree cutting areas, we're proposing a number of bird boxes and such to provide additional habitat for birds. So you'll have a number of different types of habitat as a result of this project, transitioning from a grassed area within the fence to an early successional area outside the fence, what would be maintained as a shrub-type habitat, and then transitioning to the existing upland forested habitat.
Yeah, it's my understanding most of this area has had a forest fire, how long ago?
It was right on.
In the 60s?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the trees are not wicked matured. I mean, they are,
Correct, it's a
they're
number
really
of
scrub
pitch
pine and pitch
scrub
pine
oak.
and scrub oak, well, that's right, yeah.
But in other words, to answer your question, 39 acres is the number we're talking about.
The question I have is, again, I'm a late entry into this, and I'm reacting somewhat to what was done at Toby Road, and which I thought was personally, I thought was a travesty, but that's, is an environmental impact study been required to be done for this project in total?
No, it has not. It's not required for this project.
Okay. I've looked at the website for Blue Wave Capital and, or now Blue Wave Solar, and some of the people that are at the top of this company have a lot of credentials and a lot of environmental involvement. Where my concern is, when we asked the question the other night at the zoning, or when I did at the zoning, you know, about the impact of these trees being cut, and I'm wondering, it was a CUFR tree carbon calculator done on this, and the impact of that?
I'm not aware of that.
And that's from the U.S. Forest Service Department Climate Change Resource Center. And there's a website that goes into the details of what that involves. And what this allows is it provides quantitative data on carbon dioxide sequestration and building and heating, cooling effects provided by taking of trees. And my suggestion is that that be looked at, because that is a way of measuring what the impact will be. The second thing is I spoke to it and did Gary Buckminster at the zoning meeting about the habitat and how it affected the deer and the others. You know, as far as I believe it was what, a 1-foot fence?
6
You
inches.
allow small animals, I don't know
6
if
inches.
foxes can get through, or
6 inches.
what?
It's a 6-inch clearing at the bottom of the fence.
6 inches, so I know you're trying to keep deer out, but Gary rather emotionally and logically mentioned what happened at Toby Road. He said when all of a sudden they clear-cut that area, he'd see deer out there and they were confused and didn't know where to go and destroyed their habitat. And I don't know what happened with eastern box turtles and why that wasn't looked at in that project, but that came into play with up the road. So my suggestion is that a tree carbon calculation be done as to what the effect is on these trees that are being taken. Quite personally, I'm a former member of a Conservation Commission and chairman when I was in Hanson a number of years ago. And we tried to keep as much forestation as we could have. And it seems to me that it's counterproductive to be taking down trees. I have no problems with what they're trying to do in gravel pits and other areas. But when you start taking down trees, it's counterproductive because of the carbon calculator, which I'm mentioning. I think it should be looked into. And I won't talk to each and every one of those because I think I've covered the points that I wanted to make.
Right. Well, I'll say I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what you've stated. The issue is, though, these things are not required under the Wetlands Protection Act laws, which is what we have jurisdiction over. So we can't require certain things to be done that are not part of the regulations. And if you were on a conservation commission, I think you would realize that you can't require things that aren't required in the wetland regulations. And most of the project actually is not even within our jurisdiction. There's only a very small fraction of this overall project that's even within the buffer zone. So all the other land outside of that, we don't even have jurisdiction over.
Well, I would appeal to the professionalism of some of the people that basically run this company. The co-founder, John DeVillers, was Secretary of the Environment for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He was chair of the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority and chief of operations under Michael Dukakis. He's a lecturer on environmental leadership at MIT, and I would appeal to his professionalism that they go through these steps that I think have been developed by the U.S. government to protect the environment. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Seeing none, I make a motion to close the hearing on the Gibbs Brook project.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
I make a motion that we order a standard order of conditions for the Gibbs Brook property with the stipulation that 2 sets of the most current version of the plans be provided to Mr. Pichette when everything is completed with zoning. Is that put the right way?
Well, it may not be until they're completed by zoning. We just need the most current plans that they want us to reference in the order.
I take that back. The most current plans they have, so that to be referenced in our order of conditions.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, that's that. Why don't we just keep going and get this done?
Sure, it's up to you.
Pocasset.
Okay, next we'll bring up the notice of intent for the Pocasset River,
That's,
Blue Wave Solar.
that's 25A. Is that the other brown one?
It's the small one, yeah.
Okay. And there's no wetlands in that one, is there?
There's
Is there-
isolated on either side.
But that's on the others, that's in the green thing.
These are the wetlands here.
But that's not 25A.
This is 25A.
But that's, okay,
Yeah, Pocasset. There's 2 isolated wetlands on either side of it.
okay.
Okay, David? If you want.
No, I would just make the same general comments that, you know, we have a DEP file number for the project and comments from the town engineer. And so I would recommend the issuance of this order of conditions with the same conditions that were referenced on the last hearing. The standard conditions, maintaining the 50-foot no activity zone and the updated plans.
Anything to add? No? Yeah, Rob?
No.
Jim? Sandy?
I'm all set, thank you.
No
Joe?
questions.
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the audience? I don't see any. Okay.
Seeing none, I make a motion to close the hearing on the Pocasset River project.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? For the motion?
Make a motion, we approve the Pocasset River project order with a standard order of conditions that we receive the most current plans available, and there is no activity within 50 foot of any wetlands.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, the notice of intent for BWC Hollow Brook, Blue Wave Solar.
Josh Conde.
How'd you know I was gonna ask that question?
Okay, you got anything to add, or is
Yes,
the
that
same
one.
comments?
That has the wetlands in it,
Yeah.
too.
Same comments.
Okay, any questions? Rob? Jim?
Nope.
Sandy?
All set?
Joe?
Yes, quickly, I might have missed one meeting.
You did.
Okay, was that addressed about actually reaching in there into the 50-foot to pluck out a couple of trees? That's been addressed?
They've backed away from that, yeah.
Good man.
Yes. He said that they were not going to touch
Okay.
anything, not even reaching in and grabbing.
Mary?
Question.
Anybody in the audience? Oh, okay.
Seeing none, I make a motion, we close the hearing on the Harlow Brook project.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I make a motion that we issue the standard, approve the standard issue of conditions for this project, that we have the most current plans available, and that there's absolutely no work within the 50-foot no-work zone.
Second.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. That was Hollow Brook.
No,
Okay.
No.
BWC Wareham River LLC, Blue Wave Solar. Any questions, Rob?
None.
No statements? Dave?
No,
Same comments?
Same comments as on the previous.
Jim? Sandy?
Just to make a statement, no trees will be cut for this project.
Correct.
That's the
You're
sand
in a
pit.
gravel pit.
That's the gravel pit.
I just wanted to make sure.
Joe?
No questions?
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, I make a motion, we close the hearing on the Wareham River project.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
I make a motion, we issue standard order of conditions for this project with the additional stipulation that no work, the most current plans be made available for Mr. Pichette.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the public hearing.
Oh,
I know it's a little late, but I wanted to get those four done.
wait a minute. Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provision of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday,
Yeah, could you take that outside, please?
on
Just,
Wednesday, November 15th, 2017, at 7:15 PM, on the notice of intent for Kevin Olivier, Coastal Orthodontics, Wareham LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a medical office building for property located Assessor's Map 108, Lot 1018A, 6 Recovery Road, Wareham.
okay, anybody here for that? You identify yourself for the record, please.
For the record, I'm Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Okay, David, please. There's the green cards.
Mr. Chairman, just, would anybody be interested in half-size plans?
Here, you can sign that.
Easier to read those.
A little easier to read.
Yeah.
Two.
Thank you, boss.
And here's one for you.
Sign? Did Mary sign?
Can us old people read these?
Okay, this project site is at 6 Recovery Road. And the project involves the construction of a medical office building with associated parking and stormwater drainage structures in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. A 62 by 80-foot medical office building is proposed, and this would be approximately 60 feet away from the wetland. The wetland line was previously reviewed by the commission under a separate notice of resource area delineation, which we had approved with the exception of 4 additional flags that had to be added to the wetland line for this project. So I reviewed those flags and found them to be acceptable, so no changes are made to the wetland line. Also proposed are parking areas, retaining walls, and stormwater drainage structures. The proposed limit of work for the project is 50 feet from the edge of the wetland, which is what we require for a commercial project, so they are meeting the 50-foot no-activity zone. Hay bales and silt fence would be placed along the limit of work line as shown on the plan. The proposed building and retaining walls are very near the limit of work, though. And so, I just had the question or concern with is there gonna be enough room to construct the project and access the rear of the building once the project has been completed and still maintain the 50-foot no-activity zone? The project has been reviewed by the town's engineer, who is comfortable with the project as proposed. The only issue I had was for, on the wetland side of the wall, there is some grading to be done, and I just question how that's gonna be stabilized, because those slopes are a little bit steeper. Is that just gonna be loamed and seeded and left as such? We did get a DEP file number for the project, so if the questions are answered favorably to the commission, then I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard conditions, and the added condition that the 50-foot no-activity zone line be somehow permanently identified and maintained, so that it's understood that that needs to be maintained going into the future. And also added conditions for maintenance of the stormwater structures, and the stormwater maintenance program is described on page 2 of the plan set, so I would want that to be part of the conditions in the order, and those would be ongoing conditions.
Page 2.
Page 2 of the plan set, and the big plan set. Hopefully the small one's the same, but.
You got anything to add, sir?
Well, just a couple of things, sure,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Further down on the agenda tonight, there's a request for a certificate of compliance for the original order of conditions on this property. So last year, very close to this time, the commission issued an order of conditions for a 40-foot by 100-foot building. So this is really, from our standpoint, this is the same project. But I just wanted to point out that, there was no work done on this piece of property under the other order, and so we are asking for a certificate of compliance from that order. This notice of intent is basically superseding that prior application. I agree with everything that David said, and I've had a lot of involvement and discussion with the design-build firm Conserve, which Mr. Oliveira has hired to design the building and ultimately to manage the on-site construction. One of the things that you'll notice on the plan, one of the things that we did to determine if there were any large trees along the 50-foot no-touch, which obviously someone wouldn't want a 24-inch oak 5 feet off the back of their brand-new medical office building. But so what you're seeing highlighted here in orange is the large trees, and so those are 20 or 30 feet behind the building. We actually slid this building slightly to the left, and we, this parking lot is now a little bigger than that one. Before they were basically identical. And we put stairs to the rear over here, again, all in an effort to protect the 50-foot no disturb zone. So there aren't any large trees, and I would agree that we need to survey layout the 50-foot no touch so that they can do some cutting to get the hay bales and silt fence in. And for the most part, the hay bales and silt fence would be tight to that line. I personally would not object, nor do I think Mr. Oliveira would object, if there was a special condition, say, to put some 4x4 posts with a marker just near the building where people would be able to see them, and 50-foot no disturb zone beyond, something of that nature. But for the most part, there's a 45 contour in the back. We've got a proposed 45 grade. There's a little bit of fill here, which is, we've got a decent amount of separation. So we've got some 3-to-1 slopes here, and we're just filling a little bit to try and reduce the amount of exposure on the retaining wall. Mr. Rowley has signed off on the new drainage design, which trees, and the only big ones are in here in the back, and some of those are dead, but, we understand that during construction and after construction, the commission does not want the 50-foot no-touch zone encroached on, and so we feel we've done a pretty good job at that, and with the special conditions of survey staking out the location of the hay bale silt fence, and putting some permanent markers in the back. You know, it's a medical office building in the industrial zone, and so it doesn't, you know, it's not like people living in a house 7 days a week and over time, you know, making their backyard bigger. You know, this is gonna be a Monday through Saturday orthodontist office. People are gonna be leaving at 7 o'clock at night. You know, the egress in the back is, it's a half a full basement for storage in this area. And so that little door landing there, it's just an emergency exit. And so we're not expecting any deliveries or people going in and out of that basement door all the time. So, you know, we think that that's in our favor also. But it's a valuable piece of property in the industrial park that, you know, Mr. Olivera wants to basically keep his business in Wareham. He's leasing right now in the Wareham Commons. And so we have told him multiple times that we need to make this commitment not to impact the 50-foot no-activity zone. And he is fully understanding of that.
Okay. Any more comments, David?
No.
Questions, Rob?
On the steep slope that's gonna be loamed and seeded,
Yes,
what's it gonna be seeded with, and is there maintenance to whatever it is that's
we
being seeded with?
just call for it to be grassy, and, you know, I guess, you know, it's up to them how much they wanna, maintain along those retaining walls. If it was, to be kept as lawn, then they'd have to hire a landscaper, and it'd be either a push mower or a weed whacker. They may choose, to only have lawn in this area. We always call for any and all disturbed slopes to be loamed and seeded, and, you know, with just typical grass.
retaining wall.
There's a seed mix on the plan. You know, if they choose to let trees grow up here, a limb could fall in the parking lot. You know, over here near the building, we think, you know, this is the spot that he chose to buy, and these are the conditions that he has to work with, but, you know, I can see them not wanting
I'm not seeing it.
to mow that and just letting trees grow up in that area as well.
Thank you.
Jim? Sandy?
Ms. Bichette, what were you thinking of what would be a permanent definition of that no-work zone? Because I honestly can easily see a couple picnic tables going out there.
Well, they'd have to be, in this area here where
Yeah.
about 12 or 15 feet, and so that's.
And I'm
that's
saying,
the spot where I would.
once it's
propose.
done, a year down the road, who's going to, I was thinking, what can we put out there to show where the 50-foot line is? So it can be said to them, no picketing. I mean, it wouldn't take much to put something out there to ease during breaks and lunches. I'm just thinking, I really don't want to put a fence up there, because that means digging holes, and that means the fence will rot and whatever, so I was just thinking, what would be the best way to define that 50-foot?
Yeah, well, like I say, in the
Rocks.
past, we've, like a lot of the land trust trails and, so you take a 4x4 or a 6x6 pressure-treated post, and you set it in so it's about this much out of the ground, and then you typically cut it at a 45-degree angle, and you put a little placard on it or a marker, something that just said either wetlands beyond or no-touch zone beyond. Other than that, I think we would have to agree to, a stockade fence or something, just a cedar post
Yeah, I would say certainly not a stockade fence, but possibly a
Yeah, I'm sorry, post and rail
split rail
fence.
fence, something like that. You know, in other situations where there was maybe a little more room, we've seen or done boulders, but that I don't think would be appropriate for this site.
But a less inviting ground cover, you know, like poison ivy. No. But
It
you
is
know
a
what I mean?
catch-22,
But-
because anything we put there would require maintenance at some point, and then you're
Yeah.
trying to do
Right.
maintenance
But
right
if
up
it was
against the line.
If it was a low-growing shrubby thing, you wouldn't tend to put a picnic table in the middle of it.
Yeah, you could, we have had rows of, you know, certain plants, like a shrub line, that's been done, but then that will grow and potentially grow out. So, if you put the posts in, you're gonna be digging a hole anyway, so if the commission wanted to see a split rail fence, at least along a certain portion of the back of the building, you know, behind the retaining walls, I don't think people are gonna venture over there to be throwing in picnic tables, but,
No, and that actually, I think, has guardrail on the top of the fence.
So if the commission's comfortable with the split rail, then to me, that would be good, or if you're okay with posts every so many feet, then that's okay too. Just so long as it's understood that there's something there that has to be maintained.
Yeah, I guess I'd leave it to, whatever your preference is, I'll agree to it.
You think a split rail fence is a good option for the back of the building?
I think for the customer would be too, because consider it's like professional
It's certainly not a
space.
straight line either.
It'll look more pleasing than just but that's your choice.
Any other questions, Sandy?
No, that just,
Joe?
No, that was the only one that I had.
Mary?
No question.
Anybody in the audience?
it's not as if that area is flat either, so, but, okay.
Split rails followed.
Nobody.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
I make a motion, we grant the standard order of conditions with the following stipulations, if I get this right. There has to be a split rail fence installed to identify the 50-foot no work zone. It has to be maintained. On page 2 of the plan set, the stormwater drainage, what was the words, drainage? Operation and maintenance schedule must be adhered to. Is that it?
And to, condition to have the 50-foot no activity zone line or the hay bale line survey staked before,
Work
So
is
they-
done.
so they know where specifically it is.
Okay. And the installation of a hay bale at the 50-foot no work zone staked and completed before, and reviewed by Mr. Bichette before any work is started. Did I get it? Okay.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That wasn't you, Joe, was it? Okay. Okay, we're all set.
Well, thank you,
Busy
Mr.
one,
Chair.
isn't
I
it?
just, does anybody want me to stay for either Stone Bridge onset or the certificate of compliance request?
Well, the Stone Bridge, yes.
Okay, so,
Um,
yeah, so when you get to it, thank you.
Shouldn't be long. Okay,
Well, let's
Right
take-
here.
Let's take care of,
we gotta finish that. Just continue it. John L. Churchill, notice of intent, care of J.C. Engineering. Is that,
You want this one?
anybody here for that?
I got-
You got it?
It's been requested to be continued.
Next meeting is December 6th.
I'll make a motion, we continue the hearing until December 6th.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Right,
Opposed? Abstentions?
December 6th.
Was that you, Rob, that seconded that, or was that Jim?
Jim?
Okay. I'm not used to having two of you over there.
Yeah, I got one.
Can we do Mr. Nolan next?
Hmm?
Can we do Mr. Nolan next?
Yes, we can.
So we'll just go down the line, because this one we're not doing anyway today. I'm gonna recommend that.
Okay. So should we even mention it? No, we don't have to mention it.
Yeah, mention it,
What, the TK?
yeah.
All right, the extension request for TK Roy and Williams Avila, 200 Blackmore Pond Road.
That extension request I would like to put off till the next meeting, because I need to do some further evaluation of that before making a recommendation. So I want to put that off till the 6th.
Okay. Well, that's it. John Nolan, 226 Blackmore Pond Road.
My friends call me Jack.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to be official.
The joke got a laugh at one of the town meetings, and I've been using it ever since.
Okay, Jack, you're identified.
Jack Nolan, right. Along with my wife, who's sitting here, we own the property in question, which is,
Hi, Susan.
this is, of the lots, item you were just mentioning is for the dam on a body of water, of which there's 9 lots around there. And there are lots 1 through 9 in my, how I refer to them, rather than the street address. And lot 1 was sold to Wareham Land Trust. We own lot 2, and the dam is lot 9. So it's a big body of water, and from visual inspection, the dam seems to be working as a dam. The water level is coming up. We have been trying to sell this property for a long time. And in fact, we sold it once and had to take it back. The order of conditions we got for 3 years, and we got a 4-year extension in the Economic Recovery Act. And my little diagram is to show you how disappointed I am in the recovery. This is what the valuation that the assessors give us. It's a matter of record. And you realize when we bought the property, that's the original infusion of money. This curve is my cost, our cost. And we realized when we were doing this, we don't get to know what the valuation is. Like, you see this curve ends at 2016, because we won't know the 2017 point until January. So when you're here, you don't see these 2 points. You see this valuation, and so we had to take it back anyways, but it did seem unreasonable if we laid out $180,000 for this. But again, the anticipation of the economic recovery, which gave us extra 4 years, we're still waiting. We're waiting for the economic recovery, and we're waiting for the pond to come up now that the dam has been fixed, because we're trying to sell a piece of waterfront property and
Without water.
Water was helpful.
expenses,
The-
since we've
for-
had the property.
For those who would rather the table, this is the same data, but I thought this plot, this black curve is the cumulative at the end of each year, the beginning of a new year. The work that's been done under the order conditions is simply that the shed that was built on our property in era, the owners in lot 3 built it on our Lot 2 in error, and the order of conditions contemplated that they would move that. And it's been a long time going, but they finally moved that shed onto Lot 3. But, you know, then
Dam broke.
the dam broke, and so we've had a hard time selling it because, you know, we never lowered our price fast enough. We wanted to sell this property, we thought we were home free, but then we owned it again. So we're asking for it, you can give us here, we said 3 years. 3 years would be nice. I think 3 years, the value of the property will come up, the pond level will come up, and we'll sell it to some lovely couple who will build a nice house there and enjoy it. Enjoy the pond and enjoy the Wareham Land Trust property, which is, I think, a real plus and a real hope that we have.
You're
have an
next
owner
to the
that's-
Tweedy Bonds corridor, right?
Pardon?
The Tweedy Bonds, Tweedy Barnes corridor is the land next to yours, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't know the dam got fixed.
Huh?
What
Well,
would-
it's mostly fixed, but that's why the previous request for an extension is for that project. So they're
Oh,
not
the
100%.
200.
Yeah, so they're not 100% done with it. And I'm likely going to recommend a continuance of it, but I just wanted to get some firsthand visual information about where they're at with it, so I could report to the commission, and I haven't had a chance to do that. So, on this particular request, I would recommend the issuance of an extension. It's typically been the board's practice to grant one-year extensions, so I would suggest that, but I definitely would recommend an extension for the order of conditions.
You just have to remember that
Okay,
1 year and make sure you come back for another one.
yeah.
If you need it. I
If
mean,
you
may
need it.
not.
But, like I say, the only work that's been done is the shed has been moved, and we made a path, and we've gotten rid of a lot. Originally, the place was a jungle with thorns and bittersweet, so we've cleaned the vines. I think we only had to take down one tree in order to make a path that will be the driveway when this thing is developed. So that's the work that's been done, but you certainly go look at it if you have any questions, and get back to me if you have any questions.
I make a motion, we extend the order of conditions for 1 year.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All set.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anything, any
Yeah,
of your
take your
paperwork you
pictures
want back,
back.
your pictures anyway? Or-
We probably don't need all these sets, so I'm gonna give him back some sets. But we can call him up for the,
Yeah, right there.
Stonebridge-
Yep.
Stone,
Stonebridge.
oh, okay. All right, discussion for Stonebridge drainage and onset?
I'm just gonna give you those back, 'cause I don't think we'll need all those. All right.
I hear you're working on a solution for us.
Yeah, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to say a few words, or if you want David to start.
David, you ready? Yeah, we'll let David start.
Bob's here to discuss the issue of the town's stormwater remediation project over at Stonebridge and Onset. and some of the issues that we've had there relative to unforeseen erosion issues and so forth. So we've met out there at the site, Bob, myself, and Dave Menard from Municipal Maintenance, and discussed some potential remedies to help alleviate the erosion issue. And one of the things that we decided would be a positive thing would be to reestablish a connection to a previous drain pipe that had been cut off as part of the project. So before the project was put in, there were certain drain pipes that took the stormwater and drained them out into Onset Bay, untreated. Now, the new system now takes that stormwater, runs it through treatment, and outlets it to a single point. And that single point, because of all the volume that's going to that one point, has resulted in some beach erosion. So what the thought process was here, one of the pipes that was cut off to do this project is near the connections to the new setup. So the thought was to reconnect that other pipe so that it can take some of the flow, so that all the flow isn't going to one point, now it will be split up into two different points. The water still will be treated first before it goes out either of these pipes. So you're not gonna really change anything relative to the quality because it's already been treated. You're just dividing it up into two different spots now instead of one spot. So we thought that that would be a worthy thing to do to try to alleviate this issue of the beach erosion. So Bob, if you have anything to add as far as how that would be done in terms of connecting that back up, but that's the
Yeah,
gist of what we're here to discuss.
Right, yeah, just briefly, and I had sent Dave an email with a couple of pictures, which I guess you could pass around while I talk, I suppose, but when I did the initial design for this, so this is Hotel and Ocean Ave, a little bitty East Boulevard, and it's the Onset Home Park that pumps water up to Hotel and Ocean. So when I did the initial design, fortunately, so we've got these two galley systems that are storing and infiltrating and then overflowing the stormwater. So one galley system, the pipe going into it is at elevation 9. And that galley system has no outlet to it. It infiltrates all the water it can, and then when it can't take any more water, so that's at elevation 9, the other galley system, the pipe is at elevation 11. So we got 2 feet between the pipes going into each galley system. And then fortunately, so there was a single catch basin with a 12-inch pipe at 6% going to the low tide line of Onset Beach. And so that pipe can basically be connected. So one of the pictures shows the drain manhole under construction, a low pipe on the right, a higher pipe on the left. The pipe that's facing you is the inlet. And then you can see the cutoff former pipe, the discharge pipe. So that's what we want to do, is connect that pipe to the manhole at elevation 10. So the first galley system fills up and infiltrates and does the best job it can. But then when the water reaches elevation 10, that 12-inch pipe discharges it at the low tide line of the beach, just like the previous catch basin did. But again, as David said, all of this water has already gone through the big, the storm scepter unit, if you want to call it that, the proprietary treatment device. So if and when that 12-inch pipe at 6%, which is a good, it's certainly in excess of what the park is pumping, but only when that pipe is overflowing, the 6 galleys are full, the 12-inch pipe is full, the water gets to the top of that 12-inch pipe that we want to reconnect at 11, then it goes into the galley system, which has been, I don't say causing the beach erosion, but it goes into the galley system that's been overflowing, that has the
That's all right, you can say it.
So, sure. So the intermittent stream that we inadvertently created should, for the most part, go away. You know, there's still a separate catch basin that goes directly to those galleys. It's a one catch basin in Onset Ave. But when there's a lot of rain and the park pump kicks on and sends that slug of water, this 12-inch pipe, once it's reconnected, is gonna take a lot of that water.
Yeah, and I think the only way, you know, as we discussed, to minimize or eliminate the beach erosion issue is to reduce the volume that goes to that point. So this is going to do that, and I think it's the only way we're gonna start reducing or eliminating that problem. So you gotta just reduce the volume that's going to that point.
Yeah,
So and this is a quick fix. This is something that, I don't wanna say it's a quick fix, I'm saying it's a relatively easy fix. It's not gonna require a huge effort to reconnect this, because they're fairly close to one another as it is. So this is something they could probably do in several hours and be done with it.
Yeah, in hindsight being 2020, I could have set it up to maintain it, you know, but I just didn't think that we were gonna be seeing what we're seeing. And so fortunately, this pipe is right there, 8 feet away. And so municipal maintenance has the capability to reconnect it. It's been in there for some time. I don't know what, you know.
So it's still a good pipe, it hasn't been squashed or anything?
No, I mean, so they brick and mortared it, they plugged it up before they backfilled, and then it has a rubber tide flex valve at the end of it. You know, even though it's under a foot of sand, you know, the water works its way out. There's about a 13-foot differential between that invert at 10 and that pipe at -2. So it's gonna relieve a lot of water from.
It won't hurt anything. It won't cause more problems.
Before this project, it was one catch basin with no, I mean, I think maybe there was a hood on it, but it was, it was Onset Avenue runoff into an old catch basin and out. And now we've got all this other treatment, plus the initial treatment of the lower galley system. So it's much cleaner water that'll be coming out of that pipe. But being at the low tide line, it's obviously, you see some sand stirring up in the picture, but it's not eroding the beach and.
But it would have to be a substantial rain event for it to kick in.
No,
not really.
unfortunately.
Well, I mean, for them to pump the water from the mobile home park.
Right, I mean, just a light, steady rain is gonna cause that to happen. We can deal with a light, steady rain, but when the park, which
Kicks in.
I'm trying to, I'm still working, I'm working with them. I've requested their as-built data, but I haven't received it yet, and I need to reach out to them again to get that, but.
But if we didn't have the park's additional water, we wouldn't have had this issue.
No, I
not
still
as
think you
severe,
would.
I mean-
Think a big storm?
On big storms, I still believe you probably would see that erosion issue
Yeah.
happening.
Do we
But
have any
because,
flow data yet from that?
no, that's what he was saying, you're still waiting to get that information
Yeah, 'cause
from
I'm
them.
wondering if they have any retention there, or if it's very short-term retention.
Right, that's sort of an unknown at this point.
Yeah.
Any retention over there, it floods.
Well-
Trust me, we lost cruisers in there.
That's what happens when you build into a
I see
kettle
no,
pond.
I see no problem
So, yeah, I would,
connecting to that existing 12-inch.
right, so I just wanted to get the board's general consensus and maybe a vote to say you're okay with the town doing this to try to help correct the problem. We still have an open order of conditions anyway, so they can operate under that order.
I have a question.
Sure.
With this additional slug of water going through this pipe, I mean, granted, it's down at the low tide level, is that pipe going to be marked so that somebody doesn't go play in the water in the beach or something and end up falling in a hole?
Well, it never has been, and it doesn't seem to create a hole. I mean, I think, again, this one's at the low tide line, so, the system that we have now, you don't notice any problems at high tide, and you do certainly at low tide. But this one is under a foot of sand, and it's at the low tide line, and there's no marker now that, I mean, I think if you put a marker there, it wouldn't last long. I don't think it's gonna, I mean, it's, the 12-inch pipe can only take so much, but, I mean, it's gonna be a little different than what we see in that picture. You know, that's probably not indicative of the full flow, you know, 4 or 5 CFS coming out of it.
And I think once it's reconnected, if we do see that it's a problem, then I think it's not a big deal for the town to go in and drive a sign in there like they've done at other ones. So I don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about somebody, you know, the tide's low, they're down there playing in the water, and all of a sudden they fall in the sippy hole.
Right.
Well, it's been there for how long?
Well, I guess.
Yeah, but it had very low flow. I mean, now, I mean, you're gonna put some serious gallonage through there. You know, you're gonna increase the amount of output that's gonna handle.
I mean, I think it's always gonna be under a foot of sand, though. I think that, you know, even though, you know, when it's discharging, it's gonna blow some of that out of the way. You know, as soon as it stops raining, the sand's gonna be right there.
Yeah, no, I do agree with Kenny, though, that there is the potential for this to create something like that, but we won't really know that until we see it in action
So you have,
for a couple of storms. And then if it is, then you go put a sign in there, that's all. I
Yeah.
think that's a
I think
quick,
municipal maintenance wanted to try and get out there next week with your permission and so after next week, the next time we get a heavy rain or a medium rain or a steady rain, we'll
Check
be
it
out there
out.
to see.
all right, I'm satisfied with that. Rob?
Seems like we've been given a pass on a problem. Take it.
Jim?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sandy?
Okay.
Joe?
Do it.
Mary?
I think you'll see that it will be a big help.
Well, that's the general consensus. If we want to make a vote that we support it, then somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we support the connecting of the 12-inch pipe that exists already on Onset Ave. And that it be monitored after a substantial rainstorm for any output problem.
A second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Tell them go do it.
Thanks again. Thank
all
you.
right, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. You need a certificate of compliance for 6 Recovery Road?
I'll make a motion, we approve it?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy's motion.
Certification of compliance for 6, the old certification of compliance for 6 Recovery Road.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Rob. Or you prefer to be called Rob or Bob
fine.
or Robert or?
Rob's fine. Have a
Okay.
number of names. That one will do fine.
Not late for supper, though. Okay. Certificate of compliance for,
We didn't vote on it,
yeah, we did.
did we?
Yeah.
I didn't know who seconded it.
Rob seconded it.
Okay.
I'm not losing it yet.
I am.
Well, you're entitled once in a while.
Thank you.
Certificate of compliance for Pamela Barter, 87 Agawam Lake Shore Drive.
I'm going to recommend that that not be issued at this point. There's still not adequate growth on the site for the area that's been disturbed, so I hadn't had a chance to get there before I put this on the agenda, but having been there, I would prefer that we just hold off on that one at this point. So if we could just skip over that one for tonight.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're skipping over it. We don't have to vote on that.
Right.
Okay, Buzzards Bay Coalition, Burgess Point.
This project is the wildlife habitat enhancement project that the Buzzards Bay Coalition has done the first phase of down at the former Deacon's property off of Winship Ave. So they have completed that. Myself and a couple other Conservation Commission members did a site walk with someone from the Buzzards Bay Coalition. So at this point, I would recommend the issuance of that certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Sandy's motion,
Second. Second. Yep.
Rob second. All those in favor? Gotta let him get his feet wet. Opposed, abstentions? My hand's not working. Okay. Approval of minutes for June 18, 2014. I realize most of the,
I read it, and the best I could tell you is it looked
looks
like
fine.
the right people were making the motions in seconds. But for
Same
this,
here, but I can't trust memory.
but for the stipulation, I just,
Yeah, well, we're at a point now where we gotta either approve it or not approve it. So, you approve it?
yeah, yes, I do, so we,
Sandy's motion,
Second.
Jim's second. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Gee, Jim, you were there, do you remember this meeting?
I looked at it first and I said, Jesus. I had no idea.
It's the
That was about the
15th,
fir-
right?
When I first joined the group.
I didn't even live in town.
I saw John Connolly's name on it. I said, what? And then I looked at the date. Oh.
Well, when I first looked at it, it says Ken Baptiste clerk. I said, wait a minute. And then I see John Conley, I was, oh boy, we got another one. June 18th, 2014.
Don't ask me, I wasn't here.
I was here, but
Motion to approve those minutes.
You weren't here either.
who?
I wasn't on that
No,
one?
you weren't here either.
I withdrawn.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
Says I was absent.
Joe Leggett. right
No,
here.
we had just done the,
Oh, we did
Earlier.
June 18th.
we did June
Okay.
18th. This is the October 15th.
October 15th, okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
I take it back then.
Now, that's just the two of you.
Well, you don't have to have been there to.
No, you don't have to.
But I ca- I
All right, I make a motion, we accept it. It's
Second.
written. Okay, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Abstain.
No, there's no,
I can't,
yeah,
I
okay.
have to abstain because I wasn't here. Right?
We're just voting to accept it.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
you don't have to abstain just because
Oh,
you weren't
okay,
here.
then I vote to accept it.
You can if you want to.
That's all right. I can't say whether it's good or bad. Sorry. I want to go home.
This was a long meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, it went longer than I expected it to.
Ms. Bichette, are we done?
I
As far as I know.
think so. There's,
Mr.
oh,
Baptiste, are we done?
no, well, this is just a quick note. David wanted us to be informed of a seawall that's falling down at 32 Pine Tree Drive. Any members want to go take a look at it, because there's going to be a filing coming in for it.
And what's with Donald Rogers? I think his house is empty, isn't it?
Yeah, Donald's staying, well, he's supposed to be staying at his son's house, but I think right now he's in a nursing home still. He's not doing that great. He's hanging in there.
Because right now we have one opening as an associate,
Yeah,
and no one stepped up to
right.
fill it, so.
And,
I'm just wondering, every time I go by there,
yeah, I don't know, the house is empty.